Hey everybody, it's Sophie and Marco dishing out on movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again to talk about Uncharted. Let's just say, oh, God. Oh, I mean, let's just say I had low expectations for this movie. If you watched my trailer reviews where I just went like, I have very low expectations. They were basically impossible to. I mean, it would have. It should have been in a normal state of cinema, filmmaking, film industry, in a normal, like let's say 1990, those low expectations would have been impossible to get lower, to destroy those and make it like where. But this movie, it was so bad that it was lower than my lowest expectations. Like that's how bad this movie was, and that's not an exaggeration. Like just objectively, even just taking out, because I am a huge Uncharted fan. I have played all the games. I have not gotten any platinum trophies, unfortunately, but I have done pretty well, I guess. I beat the fourth. The fourth one's the only one that I beaten on crushing, because the fourth one is really easy because it's made by the people who made The Last of Us, and they don't really make games that are challenging or fun. So this movie, it was so bad. It's hard to describe without just getting really upset. The only thing good that's happened with Uncharted recently is that I went to this Goodwill store and I found they had all these collections from libraries in the areas, and I found the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection, brand new, in a PS4, for the PS4. I found that amongst the books, and I paid for it with like 10 cents. That's how much it cost. So I got those three games I wanted to replay on the PS4, because for a while I've just been playing them on PS Now, which playing games on PS Now is terrible. It's a really miserable experience, and so that was really cool. But watching this movie, oh, and you know what I did too? I wanted to really, I wanted to see, like, to make a comparison. So I went and saw the movie, quote unquote, and then I came home and I put the video game in, the first one, the best one. The first one's my favorite, and the second one is like in close second. And it is nothing like the game. I mean, it really, this movie should not have been called Uncharted. It should have been called Tom Holland Did. Oh God, that sounded bad. Tom Holland Did, or Mark Wahlberg, something like that. Like it should not have been called Uncharted the movie, because this movie bared no resemblance to Uncharted. The characters looked nothing like an Uncharted. They acted nothing like an Uncharted. The story was nothing like out of an Uncharted game. In fact, the story was so bad that after a while I just stopped caring. Like it was so bad that I just sat there like, ugh, ugh. I just watched a movie last night, uh, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, a movie that got nominated for every single category that the Oscars had in 1967. And just watching that, and then the next day watching this, it really shows how bad the movie industry has gotten, that you have these movies now and they're basically just vehicles for, number one, easy money, because they know that a lot of dumb people are going to go see it. Even people who think that it's going to be bad, they're going to go see it and they're going to be like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. I like Tom Holland. And, it's made for the Tom Holland fangirls and a lot of creepy girls who like him because he looks like a teenager, which I kind of find that really strange about this movie, is that there's this overemphasis on him looking and acting like a teenager, and that being attractive to people, and having him be shirtless, having him, there's all these times where he drinks alcohol, and he's doing a weird thing with it, like he's chugging wine, and there's all these things like that in the movie. Like, this is really strange, the emphasis on him, like, and how much he looks like a kid. It's really weird. It comes off as like kind of creepy, honestly. And this movie was written by like 6 people. And you can tell, this movie has no personality. It has no vision. It's just a mindless, generic blockbuster. And it's not even a blockbuster. Like, this movie hardly has any action. And most of the action is really boring. I mean, I saw better action in Mark Wahlberg's Infinite last year. I mean, and that movie was really bad too. Just ugh. And another reason this movie was made, let's be honest, this movie was also made for certain actors to have their faces, seen all over the place, to where, like, it's just all about their brands. It's not really about the franchise. It's not about Uncharted. It's about Mark Wahlberg. It's about Tom Holland. And that's part of why this movie is bad. Because this is yet another franchise movie where you can tell that they have no care for the story. They have no care for the characters. It's just all about, like, okay, let's make some generic blockbuster. Let's steal as much money as we can from people who are dumb enough to go see this movie, and that's it. That's what this movie's about. It's not about, and that's probably the most ironic part, is that the movie's all about thieves and all about stealing and then going to find treasure, and then the real thieves are the executives at Sony Pictures who decided to make this movie so that they could get money to make more shitty movies. I mean, how many shitty movies are you going to make per year? Like, each year you guys make so many shitty movies that you're starting to break records with yourselves on how many shitty movies you make. I mean, this movie, it just, ugh. You know what movie this really reminded me of? This will give you a little hint as to the quality of this movie. This movie reminded me a lot of one movie that I saw once, because I don't know why I watched it. It was before I had a channel, and it was before I would really pick out movies to watch really selectively for the channel. This movie is like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. If you guys ever saw that movie, it was a straight-to-television origin prequel movie about Ace Ventura as a little kid. He's this little chubby kid, and I think like he's solving the mystery of a missing reptile or so. I can't remember. It was terrible, and it bared no resemblance to the movies that came before it. And on top of that, it was so kiddish and so childish. This movie did the same thing. I was playing the video game, and there was all this blood, and it felt very realistic. It felt very action-packed and, hardcore and thrilling, and just like really like getting into the action type of thing that you got from the game. But then you watch the movie, and it's just this non-stop stand-up comedy routine. Hey, Sully, you're old. Hey, Tom Holland, you're young. Ha 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 ha! That's the whole movie. That's the whole fucking movie. And let's let's not even get started on how this movie completely rewrites history in the Uncharted series to fit the bad narrative of this movie. They completely take the video games, the lore that they wrote throughout the games, including the shitty fourth one, and they completely like rewrite it to suit what they want. They have a couple of things that are close to the games, but they're really like they really rewrote it to fit what they wanted to say and what they wanted to do. And the story, it was not worth it. Okay, spoiler alert, it was not worth it to tell this story. I mean, I don't know what the point of the story was, and that's the thing, is that this movie just, as it goes along, you're just wondering like, what is the point of this movie, other than we have to make an Uncharted movie. Okay, let's move on to the next franchise that we're going to destroy and ruin. Let's do that one and that one and that one. Thanks, Sony. Shitty ass fucking studio. I mean, this movie, it's embarrassingly bad. I mean, the villains. Ugh. 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 I'm not even going to say what happens with the villains, but there's this twist that happens with the villains, and oh, it's exactly what you would think would happen in 2022. Let's just say that. And speaking of 2022, they have Chloe in this movie, Token Chloe, and she looks, sounds, acts nothing like the Chloe from the video games. And her character is just so dumb. I mean, she makes these like random decisions that like, I mean, I really wish I could spoil. I really wish I could, because the first time they meet in this movie, she already starts off and does something stupid that makes no sense whatsoever. It's just, oh, her character was so bad, but she got all this spotlight, and there's such an emphasis on her character, even though she doesn't even come in until the second game. And there's just so much stuff like that, like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this movie in spoilers, because I think what I'll do is Safi and I will watch this movie again. Maybe we'll do a commentary or something, because there's just so many spoiler things to talk about that I could explode right now. I mean, what else to talk about in terms of non-spoiler? The Well, there was one. Speaking of 2022 stuff with, female empowerment, women over men. Uh, One of the female henchman villain, whatever she is, Braddock. Uh, Sounds like a fish more than a character. She, at one point, she's fighting someone, and it's like this unnatural thing where she's fighting a guy. She's this little tiny woman. She's fighting this guy, and she wraps a towel around his neck and pulls on it. And that, for some reason, the filmmakers were so bad that they couldn't even edit in a better cut, because they had this shot where she looks visibly exhausted. Like, this is so hard for her to do in real life that it actually showed on her face, and it just shows how unrealistically they're portraying these women action sequences in action movies now to suit their agendas. And that was that was really big. And if you guys just watch for that scene when she wraps a towel around a guy's neck and she pulls on it, you can see they do a close-up. I don't know why they would do a close-up. Did not require a close-up. Too many useless close-ups, as usual with modern-day filmmaking. And her face, you could see she needed a water break. She needed a break to go have some fucking... What was that yogurt that Jamie Lee Curtis shilled for? She needed to go have a yogurt break in her trailer, because she looked so exhausted. And then the guy, he was just like, this is just a normal day because I do action all the time. And it was really bad. I mean, it was so poor. And that's the weird thing about this movie, is that it doesn't even feel like this is the movie that they made. It feels like, I don't know, like this movie was made by a machine. It was made by a printing press. They just printed out this movie by, you know, animating it on the computer, and they're like, yeah, let's create this movie on the computer, and then they just printed it out, and like they didn't even bother to actually make the movie. You know what I mean? Like it feels so artificial, and I hated this movie. It is definitely the worst video game movie I've seen so far. It is worse than Mortal Kombat 2021. It is worse than Prince of Persia Sands of Time. It is worse than every other video game movie I've seen. It is completely not Uncharted. It is completely just some bizarre vehicle for Tom Holland. And the thing is that I would, funnily enough, I would actually say that Tom Holland was the best thing about this movie, because he was, you know, he was terrible, but at least he was like likable, kinda. Like just not, he wasn't the character, but still, like at least he was entertaining, kinda in some points. But this movie barely had any action. It had no story worth telling. The villains were bad. Just everything was bad. The music got better towards the end, because they started using the real Uncharted theme, which that's kind of embarrassing. The fact that the music that they created, like by themselves, that was inspired by the Uncharted music, it was terrible, but then they had to bring in the real theme at the end to actually have some good music. You know, that was pretty bad. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand why movies are so bad. I mean, you have all this money and all these people to bend at your will, and you make this crap. I mean, ugh, ugh. So, ugh, and they have this let's talk about the character assassination of Sully, okay? Because Sully in this movie, he's nothing like Sully in the video games, and in fact, they purposefully make him unlikable to make it like this, I don't know, like a character arc, like an attempt at a character arc with him, but they make him unlikable, and they're basically destroying his character like they do. You know, they always do that nowadays, where they take a franchise and they take one of the male characters and then they destroy them on purpose to make it like a storyline where it's like, oh, look, this person is really down in the dumps, or they're really not themselves. And I won't say like in specifically, but they really did a poor job of writing his character. He's nothing like Sully at all. He's just Mark Wahlberg. And honestly, Mark Wahlberg was not that bad in this movie. Like, the trailers made this movie look a lot worse than it was in terms of the editing, but it was still terrible. It was still really bad. It just, and they say, remember in the clip that they released, remember how everyone commented and said, oh crap, oh my god, he's saying oh crap, oh that's so amazing. Well, over and over again in this movie, they say, oh shit, oh shit, oh crap. And I swear, they say it so many times in this movie, both Sully and Nate. They say it so many times that you could drink a shot every time they say it. That's how many times they say that in this movie. And I don't know why that was. It's just terrible writing. Why do these characters, they just have to act like they're stand-up comedians? Like, characters in movies nowadays have basically become failed stand-up comedians. Like, you remember that era of movie reviewing where you had all these failed stand-up comedians? and you had them on YouTube, reviewing movies, and they're like making all these cringeworthy woke jokes. That's what movie characters have really become. Like, just at every turn, characters have to be stand up comedians. They have to have a snarky one liner. They can't have any character to them that's resemblant to the games. And yes, there are one liners in the game, quite a few. But in the game, they're real people, they're real characters, and they're not in this movie. Sorry, this movie, Uncharted, and why did you just call it Uncharted? And see, yet again, another movie where they just call it Uncharted, or just Scream, or just Halloween, or next Friday, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just the title that was already the title. They don't have any subtitle. They could have had a subtitle: Uncharted, The Feminazi Revenge, Uncharted, Nathan is an alcoholic teenager, Uncharted, Marky Mark Wahlberg has a midlife crisis on Tinder, Uncharted, feminazi villain, feminazi everything, Uncharted, how I stopped worrying and loved the feminazis. Like, that is this movie. Like, and the action sequence at the end. Oh, there's just so many spoiler things to talk about. That's why I'm struggling right now, because I will unload on this movie as soon as I can talk about the spoilers, as soon as I feel comfortable talking about the spoilers, I should say. Overall, I hated this movie. And now for my food review. You know what this movie reminds me of? There was a time at Taco Bell. There was a time at Taco Bell back before they removed all the menu items so that they could just sell dirt tacos. There was a time where they had food to eat on their menu and they had some good freezes. And there was a time, and what I used to get all the time, especially in the winter, which was a poor decision. I would always get 2 bean burritos, and you want to know what bean burritos are like at Taco Bell in the wintertime? Okay, not only that, but I would also get a regular freeze, because I don't need a large freeze. Well, I do now, because now they have started fuck Taco Bell, because they have started to be cheap by not filling the containers all the way. So the only way that you can get a full container is if you buy a large freeze. And these fast food places, they're so lazy, but they're not as lazy as the movie industry. That's the sad thing. I mean, Taco Bell's food right now is better than the Uncharted movie. But back when I would get Taco Bell in the winter, and my order would be the 2 bean burritos, and then for a freeze, let's just tie it to this movie, okay? I think it was a year ago they came out with a pineapple freeze. It was this yellow freeze, and then on the top they had like this weird thing where they colored in green indentations like a pineapple to like show off that, like, this is a pineapple freeze, it's really special. And let's just pretend like that is a tie-in movie freeze for this movie. So you get the pineapple freeze, which it was generic, it was artificial tasting. They're terrible with their freezes now. They really need to bring back the good flavors like Distortion and Typhoon. And then you have the bean burritos, and that is, those in the winter, they're cold. They have all these onions that taste rotten, taste expired. They have this cheese that tastes like it's been pre-frozen, and ugh. You want to know bean burritos, how bad they taste in the wintertime. They taste so gross and so cold. They're always cold too. That's the other weird thing. In the summertime, the bean burritos are hot and they're warm. But in the wintertime, the bean burritos are ice cold, and you have these ice cold bean burritos with the ice cold freeze, and ugh. And then you get all this stomach acid because Taco Bell gives you really bad stomach acid. That is this movie. It is a lazy ass, generic, shitty Taco Bell meal. Go get some bean burritos and a freeze, and you will see what I mean. I swear you will eat that and watch this movie at the same time, and you will say, wow, that's exactly what Marco said on Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. Oh, yeah, and Antonio Banderas, he was terrible in this movie. I thought he would be good from the trailers for some reason, but he was terrible. Everyone in this movie was terrible, but at least Tom Holland was fun. He knew that's the other thing that was weird about this movie, was that they made no attempt to treat it like a serious movie, or they made no attempt to treat it like a legitimate movie. They treated it like a stand-up comedy routine, like an SNL skit between Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg coming on SNL to promote the movie. So anyways, that's my Uncharted review. And oh yeah, and with Sam, oh god, you won't believe what they do with Sam. You won't believe. Oh, I can't wait to talk about spoilers. Oh, I'm so excited for spoilers with Uncharted. So, please like this video, comment, and tell me what you thought of the shitty Uncharted movie, if you were dumb enough to go see it, or maybe you saw it on accident because, you're a positive person and you have hope even with bad trailers. And tell me what you thought, because this movie was bad. It was really bad. Ugh. It was almost worse than that Feminazi 355 movie. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more movie reviews, and specifically when I talk about the Uncharted spoilers, because oh wow. Because this movie, there's no resemblance to the games at all. No resemblance. There might be a little resemblance with set design, a little costuming here and there. Nothing else. So goodbye everybody. See you soon.